Yes, y'all. Thank you for taking a ride on the Freedom Train podcast series. I am your host, Joseph Ward, and as always riding with me, my homie, Mr. Patrick Irvin. Remember, the Freedom Train is brought to you by PAX Inc. That's PACTSINC. And PAX Inc. is a black development organization aimed at developing the black community to its maximum potential through a focus on education and economics with the traits of hard work, honesty, and integrity. For more information, make sure you visit www.pactsinc.org. That way you can learn more about the organization, the members of the organizations. Click on the tab that says the code, learn more about the 12 codes of conduct that we have created, we've been pushing. Also, click on the tab that says more, go down to the Learning Center. You have a whole bunch of more tabs that pop up that you can look through, that you can go through and learn as much about African history and culture and politics and everything. So make sure you go check them out. Once again, it's www.pactsinc.org. While you're online, make sure you visit our Freedom Train website at www.freedomtrainradio.com. We are a growing entity here to serve the black community as its leading media outlet. And remember, our weekly lineup, every Monday you have the Fix Sports Podcast, where you can get your weekly fix of sports from the black perspective, which is audio shop talk. Every Wednesday, you will get our show, the Freedom Train Podcast Series, as well as the live showing of Office Hours with Professor Carl Tone Jones and Erica Tobert. Every Thursday, you're going to get your episode of Lessons from the Screen with Patrick Irvin as he breaks down anything that comes through the medium of the screen and make it relevant to our black community. Every Friday, you'll get the podcast of Office Hours with Professor Carl Tone Jones and Erica Tobert, and it'll be available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Every Saturday, you'll get an episode of Tea Time Black Women Talk, as well as the On the Shoulders of Giants podcast, which is also available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. But all of our podcasts can be found on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, our Freedom Train YouTube channel, which you need to subscribe to. And remember, you can follow us on Twitter at Freedom Train Net, follow us on Instagram at Freedom Train Network, and like our Freedom Train Facebook page. That way you can stay down and be cool. Pat, if they want to be cool, what they got to do?
Oh, it's not a long list. All you got to do is follow us. Go to the Freedom Train website and follow us.
And every time you see me, give me $1.
Binge on all the shows for that 1 week. Take you about 8 hours.
Give me $1 every time you see me, and you'll be cool.
You can also hit up On the Shoulders Giants.org or ontheshoulders.org.
Oh yeah. Learn more about On the Shoulders Giants, nonprofit end of On the Shoulders Giants. Oh yeah. Also, if you like discounts, I am selling value cards. My man Sam Carter, he a genius. He created the value cards, so you'll be supporting the black-owned business, and the money from the value cards will be put into either On the Shoulders of Giants, the Freedom Train podcast series, or the Linked Up organization here in Tallahassee, who uses all of our time, efforts, and resources to help underprivileged kids. So when you buy that value card, not only are you saving money on your end, but you are helping good causes, so we can help to uplift and educate and equip the black community with these resources. So I did want to drop that about the value cards. So they're only $20 paid one time, and you get unlimited discounts.
Unlimited discounts.
Because you know how most value cards, you use it maybe once or twice or a limited amount of time. Ain't no limits to this, like Master P.
I've never used the value card, so I don't really know what you're talking about.
That's why I'm telling you about it now, Pat. I'm telling you about it now. So you can get down with the value card and be down, Pat.
All right.
Yeah, throw your hands in the air and wave it from here to there. So today we're going to be discussing the continued miseducation of the Negro. Because in our pre-show discussion, one of the things Pat and I were talking about was the continued psychological effects of slavery, oppression, religion that's been forced onto us, and just the lack of information and the lack of tact and just everything that black people would need from the male and the female counterparts to actually spur ourselves toward black liberation, because it just gets frustrating. It just gets frustrating in the mud. And we know, now don't get it twisted, even in this frustration, we understand that it's only going to be a small number of black people who click up, come together, and be able to make real change. But it seems like the question we're asking now is, who can we get to this small thing? I mean, sometimes I be wanting to pull the rest of my hair out. I don't know about you, but
I thought you was already bald.
That's why I'm like Homer Simpson, got like 3 strands.
Ah.
You know how when he get mad, he pull them out. Then the next episode they be back.
I got you.
But man,
you know, it's a long line of issues, problems, and situations, and whatever that we deal with in the community. And the fact that, like we were talking about before the show, the fact that black parents don't want to talk to their black kids about being black in America, that's not helping the situation, of which I think that needs to be a whole perspective change. I mean, look, if you don't want to have a talk with your child about some of the struggles and situations, obstacles, and hurdles that they're going to face growing up in this nation, then why aren't more of us doing things to eliminate the necessity for that talk?
Right. I mean, you know what? I'm all right. Let me go ahead and bust this wide open. Damn, I'll take the gloves off. One of the things that really pissed me off, that really gets me, I understand why it happens, but it really gets me is the continued fear that we project onto our kids. And ladies, please don't jump on me for this, but a lot of women have been taught to embrace fear and to teach their kids to be fearful. And the reason why I say this is, remember that post I sent you about the lady telling her son that if he gets pulled over by the police, he should just put his hands on top of his head and grab his license and just act crazy. And she was trying to force him to embrace her fear, so she just started crying and things. And it's like, that's why the presence of strong black men is needed, because the fear that is being passed from generation to generation is psychologically draining. It's emotionally and physically bad for the health. Fear is a disease that rots the mind and soul, and black people have been taught to embrace fear because of the collective atrocities and traumas that we've experienced over the years, in my opinion.
Well, and see, I'm not going to... Let me say this. I think a lot of that stems from ignorance, because I do understand, and, you know, there have been times where my wife has been talking to my kids about being black, and she's had a tear or two shed, and I'm sure that happens a lot, you know, and not just with black women. I'm sure there are black men crying when they talk to their black daughters about some of the situations they have to face. But the deal is, like, with that post in particular, she didn't give her son any viable or realistic means to avoid being shot by the police. Like, everything that she told him to do, follow the cops' orders, be compliant, don't make no sudden movements, empty your hands. Like, black people have been shot doing all of those things.
Right.
And more. Black people have been shot in handcuffs, in custody, with posing no threat whatsoever, lying on their stomachs. So a lot of this is just, I feel like the fear is caused by ignorance. And in some cases, when you just don't know, but you feel like you need to address the situation, you get overwhelmed by the scope and the magnitude of the situation. And the reason it's overwhelming is because you don't know enough of the details to convey a full and proper message. But the other thing is, there has to be an acknowledgement that a lot of black people simply don't want to make. And that acknowledgement is that no matter what you do, you might get shot by the police.
Right. There's no true safety message that black people can take other than just hoping that this police officer is actually a real human being. Because like you said, like we've seen black people have the grandest behavior and be slaughtered, juxtaposed to white people with the worst behavior get taken to Burger King. And we have to understand that white people are on code at all times. White people are on code, especially the race soldiers, they're on code. And your behavior or your compliance will never keep you alive when dealing with savages. You can't negotiate with terrorists.
No, I mean, compliance has never protected anybody. And that, you can go back through history and see all of the examples of cultural, ethnic groups that tried to comply with the whims and wishes of those that were dominating them, oppressing them, or getting ready to slaughter them. And what happened still happened. So we got to get, and the only true way that we could protect ourselves from the police, if we're being 100% real, is to develop not isolated, but definitely insulated communities where the police are not free to roam around unsupervised, where people aren't free, where people aren't put in a situation where something can happen without an immediate response. There shouldn't be black people getting punched in the face, beat up, shot, blah, 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 by themselves, with nobody standing in, nobody coming to intervene. You got all these people standing around videotaping it, but nobody's willing to get arrested as well to ensure that the cops understand that this is not the way it's going to go down anymore. Nobody's willing to potentially get shot themselves. And I'm not criticizing anybody on that, because I understand that fear. But if we're being honest about what we need to do in order to stop this, what we need to do as black people, I'm not talking about what white people need to do, because when you start talking about better training, better selection, better this, better that, cultural understanding, diversity, when you start talking all of that, that's all things that the police department and the social structure, the governing structure itself, the political structure itself needs to do. And the rulers in all of those structures are white people. So that's what white people need to do. We could list out a whole list of things that they could do. When it comes to black people and what we can do, first is accept that the shit is going to happen. And it's not even just about people getting shot. People get beat up. People get traumatized. People go home from a police encounter at the end of the day still feeling shaky, still feeling oppressed, still feeling brutalized. I myself have gone home from 3 separate police engagements feeling like my rights were violated. And we all know the story. Miranda's put her story out all over the place. She made it home. She's alive right now, but she was still brutalized.
Yeah.
So it's not just about people getting shot and killed. It's about the entire spectrum of behavior that we face when we deal with the police. But going back to what you were saying when you talk about fear, a lot of that is simple ignorance to the system, a refusal to accept it for what it is, and a refusal to be educated about what we can really do and about what's really in our power. And we see that ignorance manifesting itself all over the freaking place when you start talking about black people and their interactions with white people, black people and their view, their perception of our history, black people in our interaction with our children, our interaction with our institutions. It's just, ignorance is everywhere. I'm sorry. I know that was long. Go ahead.
No, but I mean, but that's true, because that also goes to one thing that we were talking about earlier that made me want to talk about this ignorance and stuff. I mean, the fear is the ignorance, like the continued passing down to generation and generation of this fear is of not only the fear but the ignorance. Both are being passed down. That's why it's like we have on one hand the generation is being taught to fear white supremacy, and on the other hand the generation is being taught that, hey, well, this new generation believe that they're going to be the generation to stop racism because white people make rap music. And when you explain to them that, bitch, white people helped create rap music, hip hop. White people were there from the beginning. Like, seriously. Like, Rick Rubin, if Rick Rubin starting Def Jam with Russell Simmons did not stop racism, why didn't the Beastie Boys? Why didn't the white dude from Third Base? Why didn't Vanilla Ice? Why didn't Bubba Sparks? Why didn't Paul Wall? Like, we could be here all day. Hey, you had a Jewish rapper, Matiz Yahoo. Why he ain't stopped racism? I mean, and see, those are the things that we have to believe. Like, we can go further back to the Incredible Bongo Band, which was created by a white person, which created that jump on there beat. Like, white people have been thoroughly involved in black people's lives, cultures, and things. Black people and white people have been coexisting for thousands of years, but just because it's the perceived newness of white people within these realms doesn't mean that they're going to be the generation to stop racism, because those specific white people that we see that may be in the rap game don't represent all of white America. And if your example, your outlook of the world is based off of the examples that you see on the regular in your everyday life within your city, then you're sadly mistaken about the realities of the world. Because, hell, Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings, they went together. They was going together. But that didn't stop racism. That didn't stop slavery. Like, you can't just take trivial stuff. But then again, it's the adults' fault for not truly teaching the adults properly teaching the youth about what's going on around us. To me, because to go back from like what we're saying, the fear and the ignorance. Like, we're constantly holding on to specific things that we don't even need. Like, I mean, we celebrated Easter on April Fool's Day. I mean, come on, man. Like, we literally celebrated Easter on April Fool's Day. Nobody questioned that. Nobody was like, hold up, dog. Why the hell the death date keep changing? Everybody in the history of this earth was born on one day and died on one day. That date don't change. The day may change, but that date don't change. But this date keep changing. Critical thinking at some point has to pop in when you realize that the date of this dude that's resurrecting keep changing. And now it's to the point to where it's actually lined up on April Fool's Day. But traditions, it's traditional. We're going to do these things because we've always done it, because these things have made us feel good. It's our dope. Everybody don't do drugs, but everybody do drugs. It's our dope. It's our coping mechanism. Christianity is nothing more than a coping mechanism for black people around the world. It's like when you look at a person who's directly from the continent of Africa who's in love with Jesus, and you're looking at them like, for real? When they tell you that Jesus is the beginning and the end, and then you ask them about their culture. Like, if you if you Yoruba, and you talking about Jesus is your savior, I'm looking at you like you crazy. How you Yoruba, and you talking about Jesus is your savior when y'all have a full spiritual system that y'all created? And I know I went from one place to the next, but still.
Yeah, you did. But I was just going to let you ride the wave.
Oh, no, it just popped up to me, man. I just had to say something about it. But it's like, but it all goes back because it's cross-continental, it's cross-cultural. The conditioning, the traditions that black people hang on to, whether you're in America, in the Caribbean, in Africa, in Europe. We hang on to these traditions and cultures because they are coping mechanisms with us dealing with this trauma that we deal with every day. But we're still woefully ignorant and afraid to really confront the true demons in front of us, which is white supremacy, who was guilty of all that fuck shit.
But when we go back to talking about the miseducation of the modern black person, shout out to Dr. Carter G. Woodson and the miseducation that the Negroes put out in the 1920s. But one of the things that has gotten lost is black progress, and that's something, I talk about a lot. I've wrote in papers and articles about it. I got it in my upcoming book. When you break progress down and you really look at it, there are two components to progress when you're looking at race relations in America. One of those is black progress. How are the black people progressing and what are they moving towards? Defining that term. And white progress. How are they progressing and what are they moving towards? And then when you combine those things together, you get the total progress of these two groups in relation to each other in America. And they have to happen together in order for you to get total progress that we would all look at and be like, this is wonderful and amazing. But what's happening now is black progress has been kind of etched out of the situation. Now you have, like you said, these young kids nowadays who they're not looking for black progress. They're looking for white acceptance, a.k.a. white progress. They're looking for white tolerance. That's why they can be all over Twitter, which is a white-owned social media company, talking about black Twitter and talking about how powerful they feel being black on a white-owned social media outlet. That's why when you try to build something for black people, they don't want to migrate over to it. They want, even when you're not telling them, look, you don't have to give up your Twitter. You can just come over here and use ours too. And then when they ban you for being black over there, know that we're never going to ban you for being black over here. But these people, they don't, and it's not, I don't put it 100% on them because we've been educated to be that way. We've been groomed to be that way. We've been taught that being that way is intelligent. The way that they play the word games where we're constantly talking about integration and they're constantly talking about assimilation. And those are two completely different terms. And then they get us convinced that assimilation actually is integration, which it is not. And you're running into all of these other problems where the ignorance is just rampant, the lack of critical thought, the lack of critical thinking. I'm not saying I'm the smartest person in the world. I'm not saying I'm the most well-studied person in the world. But I am saying that I spend a good bit of time thinking about things before I opt to just do them. And you see a whole lot of white light workers versus dark workers, another component that ties into that whole black progress, white progress dynamic. You see all of these things coming together, and you see them all aligning in such a way that does nothing but increase black dependency on structures that don't like black people. And even to that, you go back to, a lot of people keep taking this thing personally. They think just because I got a nice white friend, like there's not even a thorough understanding of racism and white supremacy on a systemic level. You can have your white friends, and they can be cool people. You can have your white family members. I got white people in my family. But I understand that white supremacy, and when I talk about white supremacy and I talk about white racism in America, I'm talking about a culture, and culture affects different people differently, to different degrees, different variances, different levels of intensity. And so you can have people in various cultural institutions that might not ascribe to that institution, but they're still a part of it because of some other selection, some other group, some other trait. So even that narrative is lost now. So you're struggling with black people who have a white friend who say, well, I can't say that white people are racist. I mean, look at my white friend. So your one white friend is an example of all white people.
Yeah, that's funny to me because I bust that wide open, man. I've helped more white people this year than you probably have in your whole life, and I'm still here standing out. Fuck white supremacy.
But that's That's what we're dealing with on a ever deepening level, because now the kids are so ignorant to the history that they think that their grandparents were punks. They think that slaves were punks and idiots that didn't know any better. The average slave was very intelligent, probably more intelligent than we are right now.
And see that right there, I'm not gonna lie, that's a button pusher for me. But to me, it's not necessarily a button pusher at the younger generation. It's these adults, because these adults been fucking up, man.
Right.
Because there's no way that our youth, who's like matter of fact, me and this dude was talking Friday about some of this stuff, and the people with unproven resumes out here trying to check somebody's resume. You have no marks on your resume. Like our generation, my generation and the generations below us ain't done shit. We haven't done a damn thing as far as thwarting white supremacy's grip on us. We haven't done a damn win with no white ass. White people are not afraid of us. We may riot, we may react. They know we're gonna react after something happens, but they are not afraid of us. We're not organized enough for them to be afraid of us. And the ones who have some semblance of organization are labeled as BIE. But if you ain't labeled as BIE, you ain't even starting to talk. Our generations ain't done a damn thing, but like you said earlier, try to assimilate. That's all. Because think about the messages that have been pumped into our head. We've been only given that little bit of Martin Luther King, I have a dream. Well, what would Dr. King do? We got to work together. That's been pumped in our head for so long that we really do believe that insignificant actions are going to change a whole sophisticated system. But they don't even know it's a whole sophisticated system, though. They don't know who Neely Fuller is. They don't know who Francis Cress Wilson is. They don't know who Amos Wilson is. A lot of these people don't even know that racism and oppression and all these things have been broken down to actual studies and sciences. They don't even know these things. All they think of this is just continued excuses, and they don't even realize that they are continuously repeating the rhetoric of the dominant society, who says, well, black people are just complaining. They're just making excuses. All right, well, let me cut both your legs off and challenge you to a race, and I'm going to beat you every time. And when you tell me, well, you beat me in this race because you got legs off, that's an excuse. But it's not put to the younger generation like that. So that's why they really believe that they tough, and they really believe that our ancestors who was willing, man, you had little old ladies in the 60s, 50s, and 60s who were willing to get their ass whooped. That 6'4", 275-pound men these days are scared to get their ass whooped.
Well, and that speaks again to the level of miseducation, that if you want to blame the teenagers and young adults of the civil rights era of anything, you can blame them for not really exposing their kids to what they knew was going on, because that's really when the whole shielding thing kind of, after integration, we felt like we made it. We stopped teaching our kids, and now we got a generation of ignorant people who honestly think that they could change the world through social media. And regardless of how many white people you get fired, you're not changing systemic and structural institutionalized racism. I mean, black people are still on course to have zero net wealth in the next 20, 30 years. Like, these are the things we're dealing with, and that's because everybody keeps looking for their individual stories and their personal gratitude, personal individual highlight reels, that nobody's taking a step back to look at how the entire system is moving. All of the gains, there have been reports put out, all of the gains that were made by black people from the 1960s through to the 2000s were wiped out when the recession hit. All of the gains were wiped out. And even though the market has recovered, black people have not. So, like, everything is out there to show, but, instead of us working to build and working to grow our own wealth and working to do those things, we still got people running around. First off, they're running from being black. They either want to run to Africa or they want to run to white people. But it's very few people out here standing on their own 2 feet, 10 toes down saying, I'm black. When I say that, I mean embracing your Black American heritage, your Black American history, your Black culture as an American national. I'm gonna say that because a lot of y'all,
right,
a lot
get
of
them,
y'all,
get them.
a lot, because a lot of these people, what they want to do is they want to run to Africa and claim ancient heritage from 8,000 years ago. And I know I'm going to piss a lot of y'all off, but right now I don't give a damn because y'all are part of the miseducational process. Y'all want to claim history from 8,000 years ago that you're not even sure is yours. Because let's be honest, none of us that have been in America for longer than 10 generations, and not even really that long, but I'm going to be gentle. No, you know what? That's too far. None of us that have been in America for longer than 5 or 6 generations know truly where our ancestral homeland is on the continent of Africa. So you want to claim that history. Everybody ain't come from Egypt. Most of us did not come from Egypt.
Man, look at here. Look at here. Like, we have no idea where we come from. Like, we don't. Like, you can't just go around claiming some Egyptian culture or some West African culture because that's what you feel you most identified with. Like, what if you do a DNA test and you find out you from the Congo? Then what?
And that's the kicker, right? Because in doing that, you essentially do the same thing you claim white people do to us. You appropriate somebody else's culture.
Appropriate. And that's another discussion, right? That cultural appropriation, but, you know.
And then we go the other way with people that so desperately want white acceptance that they completely deny their Black heritage at all, and they claim that all of the problems Black people have stem from black laziness, Black whatever. And then you got a new group that's formed. They're not new, but they've gained a lot of prominence lately that want to culturally appropriate the Native Americans and the Mexicans and the Latino population and their heritage as Native Americans.